Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reliving the Extreme. Nate Maxon here with you, along with my brother Aaron.
What's up?
And live from Baltimore, Mr. Chad Austin.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna make this quick, man. I'm boiling some hard-boiled eggs.
He got the egg timer going on the show.
Yeah,
we were just talking before we went on the air. I'm tired. Aaron's sick, so we're gonna get into the meat of the matter this week and not do our normal, bullshitting about modern wrestling that doesn't matter anyway. We're going to talk about the episode of ECW from March 26, 1996, which I actually really enjoyed this episode of the show.
Yeah, man, it was quality. I was hoping one of you guys were going to shit on it so I could be like, dude, this is what I said probably 2 or 3 times during the show. If most of these matches that they showed on TV were at that show where they taped, that was a hell of a show to be a fan and go to.
Yeah.
So much bullshit happened, good stuff happened. It was just, if I was a fan and I paid like $25 to get in there and they gave me that as my entertainment, hell yeah, dude. When are you doing the next one?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll be back next month, brother.
Yeah.
But the show starts off, and I don't think this part was from the show that the taping was at, obviously, but this was fan cam footage of the Bruise Brothers, Shane Douglas, Tommy Dreamer, doing the good old fashioned concession stand brawl. Is there a promotion in the existence of the world since the first concession stand brawl that hasn't done a concession stand brawl?
Well, first off, you didn't say it correctly. It was the Tupelo concession stand brawl. And yeah, when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my God! Now ECW is going to redo it." Yeah, who hasn't done it? Dude, I've done it on an independent level. Even I've done it a couple times. Yeah, I can see that a Tupelo brawl. I mean, that'd be Tommy's idea of a good night, good time.
He probably already looked at it. He also looked at it as a way to get free food.
Yeah,
like, somebody will shove some food in my face. And when I saw like the place, like the tables and shit, I'm like, is this a old country buffet? Like, what is going on? Like, I've never been to a place where they're like, oh, the concessions, and they have like picnic table covers on the thing. It's like, what the fuck?
Instead of the Tupelo concession stand brawl, it's the Golden Corral buffet brawl.
Fuck yeah. You know how many fried shrimp I'll be shoving in my face? if we're brawl, I'll be cracking snow crab legs as you carry me down the dessert section.
Sticking the Bruise Brothers head in the chocolate fountain.
Yeah, dude, you're sucking it all up. Instead of fucking having a crimson mash, you would have a fudge mash. Just the way the fudge is running down your face like blood. Yeah, it's awesome. I'd do that in a heartbeat.
But yeah, I think, like I said, I don't know of any wrestling promotion since that hasn't done it at least once. I know WCW did it, but the Nasty Boy. Who did?
Got to be a couple on TV though too. But even though when I
did it with everybody with the Nasty Boys.
Yeah. Oh, one of them was in Baltimore, I believe. Because I don't remember whether that was the famous one or not. But I know the commission got all mad at him for it because WCW cut him a check, but they went out there and did more damage than WCW cut the check. I think they paid him $10,000, and like they ended up like really like demolishing one of their concessions there.
And you're probably right. You're probably right about Baltimore too, because I think it was at a Great American Bash, and I don't think they did every Great American Bash in Baltimore, but they did most of the Great American Bashes in Baltimore.
They did. I mean, at least 3 or 4 that I can probably top of my head. Yeah, Baltimore hosted a lot of their. We had the Crockett Memorial Cup too.
Mm-hmm.
And Baltimore's had a lot of big things.
And it's what do I want to say? Is that just because you think, because you think of Maryland and you would think of it being more, I guess geographically you'd think of it being more a WWF town, but WCW and Crockett always seem to do better there. Is it just because of the close proximity to the Carolinas, do you think, is why they did so well there as opposed to other more northern states and cities?
Dude, I think I looked at it like I don't know about a lot of other states, but all I got was WWE for years and years and years and years. And it wasn't until out of nowhere this one small channel that I got started carrying NWA or something. Or I might even got the feed out of Philadelphia, Billy 57 representing. And I may have got it out of there, but yeah, it was like, dude, it was UHF, how to find that shit.
Well, this was a cool way to start the show, kind of a hot start to the show. And the fan cam footage is, especially for ECW, a promotion that is billing itself as all about the fan experience. The fan cam footage is a good strategy. This is what it's like to be in the audience. This is what it's like to be within, around the insanity that is ECW, because in ECW, you're not at this time, in this place, in this era of wrestling, you're not going to get closer to your wrestling stars than you are in the ECW show.
Yeah, I have a ton of the fan cams. I got them from the judge. So yeah, I must have 20 or 30 of them. I don't know how many they did, but I just love how they dated them, like, because it goes to show you the schedule, how like Vince would run like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like I would have like 2 or 3 tapes from 3 different towns back to back to back, and it had to be the same matchups. Like, it just changed at the top of it. They just changed like the date and whatever in the city. It was the same card, It was like 4 towns in a row. And I got a ton of fan. I used to like the fan cams. Sometimes like Raven especially, he would do like cool shit on fan cams. Like he would like do goofy stuff. He knew when nobody was gonna see it. Really. A lot of guys had fun doing it, especially the old Jim Thorpe shows.
Who shot those for Paulie?
Doug.
Okay.
It was all Feinstein's doing, but I think Doug was the actual videographer. Let me see what else was on their tape. or I wonder what he taped over.
Well, after the concession stand deal, Joey Styles gives us an intro to the show and discusses about how we're going to see Cactus Jack's last match in ECW before he goes to the WWF, and in grand fashion, especially for this time in pro wrestling, because at this time in pro wrestling, when somebody went from one promotion to the other with all the wars going on and everything, it was pretty much, well, we liked this guy last week, but he's going to the competition, so this week he's a piece of shit. They didn't do that with Cactus because he's fucking Cactus, and they knew what he did for that company. So on his way out, Joey puts him over. We're grateful to Cactus Jack for everything he's done. And it was a classy way to send Cactus off.
Aaron, you go first, buddy. What do you think, man? I know you're a fan of Cactus.
Well, it was a classy way to send him off, and plus, it's like, I don't personally know Mick Foley, but anybody that I've ever heard, other than maybe Ric Flair, never disliked the guy, and he was always great to everybody. You know what I mean? So it's like, how you gonna shit on this guy? And then 2, it's like, it's Mick Foley going to the WWF, and Vince didn't even really want him. So if it doesn't work out, he's not going back to WCW. So he's probably going to wind up back here. It was a 50-50 chance if he was even going to make it in the WWF. So if he didn't make it, he's going to wind up back there. So don't shit on him on the way out, because he might be coming back in 6 months. You know what I mean?
I mean, what do you think the ECW crowd would do if it didn't work and did come back? You think he could make it he could be a heel for just quitting, or they could spin it into him coming back?
Now the ECW crowd would have ate it up if he came back. They'd have ate it up like a motherfucker if he came back.
Yeah.
But I mean,
The-
good or bad?
I think if initially it would have been one of those deals where initially that they probably would have brought him back and let him heel on the people and let them get their boos and hisses and fuck yous out of their system. And then after about 2 months, he'd be back in the fold. And yeah,
It wouldn't even have been 2 months. They hated Sabu when he left, and the minute he showed back up, they were like, "You're the greatest." You.
Right, the minute he showed back up. You ain't kidding, dude. But I haven't watched that in so long, and I wasn't there. I didn't see it live. But when I saw it on tape and I heard them people saying "fuck Sabu," I didn't realize it was that bad. You know, I didn't. I mean, I knew people had heard about the story, but I didn't think it escalated to that level that you're going to hear the whole entire crowd just yelling "fuck Sabu." Like, Jesus Christ! But as soon as he came back,
there were
babies were in the air.
I think also speaking of Jack, I think to be honest with you, and you guys can tell me if you disagree, I think the best thing that happened to him when he went, because you said, Aaron, is Vince even going to like this guy? Because Vince didn't even want him. You know, JR and Jim Cornette pretty much convinced Vince to hire him. And I think, do you think that it was very, very fortunate for Mick, at least in the WWF, that the first person they programmed him with was Undertaker? Because not only did he have did he do great shit with Undertaker to keep Vince happy and make Vince notice him, but then you also have the Undertaker, who Vince trusts beyond anybody else, giving Mick his endorsement. You know what I mean?
I listened to a thing where JR talked about finally getting Mick in there, and Vince told JR, "Fine, I'm going to let you hire this guy." And Jim Ross was like, "All right." And Vince told him, "The reason I'm going to let you hire him is because I want you to know what it feels like for somebody that you love to let you down."
Right.
Like, that's what he told him. Like, he's like, "This guy's going to fail, and I want you to know what it feels like."
Jesus.
And it was Ross's thought on Mick was that Mick was big enough to be believable working with The Undertaker, and knew that Mick would be able to, I don't want to say it like he took it at, like, Jim Ross basically said, it's like Taker's been working with these big sluggish guys, like Bundy and Gonzalez, and haven't been able to give him a good match. But then when you put him in there with somebody like Shawn, he's a little guy, but he's like Mick's big enough to be believable with him, but can actually get like work rate out of Undertaker. Like, that's what Jim Ross saw in him. And you're right. If it would have been Mankind coming in and his first feud was with, I don't know,
Bob Sparkplug Holly.
Yeah. Or a Mark Marrow or some shit like that, it wouldn't have fucking worked. But Bang's just get him right in there with The Undertaker. He's a star. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't forget.
He really wasn't, honestly. Like, he had that first initial feud with Undertaker. And after that, he didn't really do a lot. He didn't do anything for probably a year in that company. He just kind of floundered. Like, he was always on, but he just kind of floundered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Weren't they setting up?
It took the. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Chad.
Like, wasn't Shawn after Taker?
Yeah, Shawn was Taker. Well, he was actually still kind of working the program with Taker when they had the Shawn Michaels Mind Games match. Because it was one of those times where Taker was selling being. I think Paul Bearer just turned on him was what it was. So Taker was off TV for a couple of months. And then, but yeah, he was still in the midst of that program. And then once the Taker program was kind of over, like Aaron said, he kind of floundered a little bit. Like, They did the stuff where they teamed him up with Vader at WrestleMania. And then it was really that when he did that whole promo with just the sit-down interview with Jim Ross talking about his history in Japan and Dude Love and blah, 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 blah. They say that's what really made Vince a fan of Mick Foley, was that sit-down interview with JR.
Because the Shawn thing wasn't even really. The Shawn thing really wasn't even a feud. It was just like a one. It was supposed to be just like a one. Or it wasn't supposed to be. It was. It was just like a one-off. You know what I mean? It was like that thing where like, oh, Mankind's the #1 contender.
Yeah.
In your house, even.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't even a grand stage.
Turned out to be the fucking match of the year.
Yeah. A lot of people say that shit. Yeah, man. I mean, most of the guys don't get that treatment from any company of any sort. That's what made the whole entire thing special. Do you know how much time they took up on that show just to fucking thank Jack for what he did?
Right.
And that was a whole entire pretty much fucking go to a break, come back, do more shit about him. So yeah, that was very, very classy on ECW's part. Very respectful, and right there, it leaves the door open anyway. So there you go. You're welcome back, pal.
And then we do see.
I didn't see it when I left.
We do see highlights, like Joey announced. We see highlights of Cactus's last match in ECW. Apropos that it is against Mikey Whipwreck. It's Cactus versus Mikey. Mikey starts the match in a neck brace. I think they explained why, but I didn't write it down.
He got hurt like the previous night Taz choked about.
Okay.
Right, Jim Thorpe?
Probably. And then the match itself, the highlights that we see, of course, are good, especially what you would expect out of these guys. I don't have a lot of actual notes on the match. I know there's a spot with the Eagle's Nest. There's lots of chair spots in the match. Mikey fighting from underneath. Aaron or Chad, did you guys have any more specific spots that you took notes on?
I know the 4 chair shots to the head was something what I wrote down. And just from what they showed in the highlights, the match looked not just good. It's not just good enough. It looked like it was a good match.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have aired that just the highlights as the match. Man, it would have been like, oh my god, that match was that good. It looked like it was a good match. I actually really liked it, and I'm not a huge Mikey fan.
Aaron?
The only couple notes I have is Mike, like I know Chad said he's not a Mikey fan or whatever, but this isn't anything about being a fan of him. But he was supposed to go through that table when he got bumped over the top.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't a fall drop. It wasn't a fall, like a far fall, but he hit that fucking table pretty hard. And then Mick tried to fucking soup.
Like he did hit that table fucking hard. And I was like, are you telling me that table that strong or Mikey's? So Mikey's heavier than you think he is. He's a small guy, but he's heavy but not fat. But yeah, he easily had broke that table. That probably hurt worse than it was breaking.
So then Mick tries to break it by suplexing him through it, and that doesn't fucking work. So I'm like, oh, that shit had to hurt. And then the only other thing I had was, I know like they weren't like the hardest chair shots that Mick got from Mikey, but I don't know how I want to say this. Like, it's insane that Mick has done the shit that he's done, and I know he's not moving around as much anymore or whatever, but it's insane that he's still got his thought processes and shit. You know what I mean?
Still as sharp as he is.
Yeah, he should be mush brain like by now. Like it should be like a
he should be talking
cake left out in the rain.
He should be talking like Stu Hart.
Yeah, or worse.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, man. I mean, he took a lot more chair shots than say, anybody else that you could say claims they had whatever that kind of stuff from chair shots. And Mick took twice as many as them. I've taken. I was a big fan. I was stupid. I admit it. I was the one that would take chair shots and not put their hand up because they really didn't hurt that much. Like if the person knew how to hit you with the chair, yeah, you felt it, but it wasn't nowhere near. It's not. We ain't talking about Balls Mahoney either, or actual
Yeah.
Rock. We're talking about your regular chair shot, in a regular mud show match or whatever. But yeah, I never had a problem with that. But I don't know. Yeah, like Jack was like that. He had to have taken more than me. And he's still normal. So everybody's different.
I'm just saying if somebody would have hit me like chair shots that like Masato Tanaka took, or how fucking even one night at the Royal, if somebody would have hit me with chairs like Rock hit Mick Foley with chairs with that Royal Rumble '99, if you'd ask me now what's 2 + 2, I'd be like carrots. You know what I mean? Like I'd be a fucking tard.
Jack doing it. Nobody else was doing it. Tanaka Tanaka was taking it in a different way, but them chair shots of Mick getting backed in the head walking down the aisle, that was more chair shots than a lot of guys will have in their career. and they weren't whacking chair shots either. Yeah,
it's always.
Whatever he's got in his life, if it's fortunate, he deserves that shit, dude.
It's always rough. I'm going back to what you were talking about a little bit ago, Aaron, about Mikey not going through the table like he was supposed to, and then Mick trying to put him through the table, and he still doesn't. I always feel bad for a guy when there's a spot like that and it's just not working, and you're just like, oh god, you poor sack of shit. Jesus Christ, I'm so sorry that's happening to you.
I love it too when the guys had the table in the corner set up like a straightwise, and you throw a guy in, and the guy does the flip bump and can't even get to the table.
Just bounces off of it. Yeah.
You're not getting more leverage. You ain't got a better opportunity of breaking that table than you do in that situation. And the guy runs and does a flip, and he bounces off, and it's like, and the table falls on him. It bounces off the rope, and the guy's getting up, and it'll like catch him in the fucking back or something. Like, you're a fucking asshole.
And it happens, and he doesn't go through it. And then all these fucking neckbeards boo him. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? It's more impressive that he took it than it didn't break. You fucking assholes. Like, applaud him for that.
That video of Sabu, man, it's probably the greatest one. The one in Japan where he does it like the moonsault, like off the top rope, or the acai moon or whatever, and he bounces off the Japanese table where he landed like ribs first on it, almost perfect, and it didn't break, and he bounced him off. I'm like, oh, you see him hold his ribs, and I think the rest of that tour, because I might have a couple of shows, I think he had his ribs all taped up. Fucking dummy.
Well, then essentially the match comes down to Cactus Jack winning the match against Mikey. Of course, he's winning his final match on his way out. Once again, sending Mick out of the territory in the way you don't normally send someone out of the territory. You usually go out on your back, but
Mikey, he puts Mikey over on the way out too.
Yes.
Nobody's gonna remember if Cactus won, lost that match, or whoever. It ain't that's already forgotten about. Yeah, put Mikey in a better spot.
And then, of course, just because it's the ECW crowd and you want to put a little bit of a needle into him, Cactus cuts a promo, and then he brings out Stevie Richards and the Blue Meanie because he wants to do a strut. with the fabulous ones.
Yeah, well, I wonder if Cactus talked Paul into that, like something that he just really wanted to do. Because I mean, I really don't see a whole lot of correlation as to what we got out of that.
Right.
Like,
And I really do think it was just this was definitely a Mick Foley request. There's no doubt it wasn't.
Yeah, before I go out.
Let me strut with these two fucking idiots.
I saw where the show was going at this point anyway. Half the show was Goodbye Jack, which was great,
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they would be remiss if they didn't take a little bit, and it's not even a shot. But since when he's going to the WWF, he's going to be Mankind. He's no longer Cactus Jack. They did put up the little thing on the screen that said Cactus Jack, 1985 to 1996.
That was cool.
Rest in peace.
I remember that first run when I saw this show the first time. Everybody did. Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, that was really cool in my opinion. Hey,
and then we come back. No, go ahead, Chad.
Classy. ECW is a classy operation.
Yeah. We come back from the break after that, and it is a matchup between Chris Jericho and Taz here on ECW.
Straight on paper, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they're just throwing Jericho out there too. They're not building him slow or anything. They're just throwing him in there with their top guys. And
last week we talked and said that he was only there for a cup of coffee or whatever, and he kind of was, but he lasted until August, and we're in March now. I honestly think Paul thought he was going to have him longer than what he did with everything that he's putting into him. Because they're building him up as like being like the second coming, and I think Paul thought he had him longer than what he originally did.
I guess Paul did originally because you could see where you could have your basically your two top baby faces. You got Tommy Dreamer who's in a top baby face who's in a constant program with Raven or a war, and then you have Chris Jericho as your top champion baby face. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The guy that actually he wants to be the world. You know what I mean? You have two different top baby faces. Or you could switch fucking Jericho heel, But I mean, we haven't got nowhere near that yet. Like Jericho being a heel, I mean, it takes another year, probably a year and a half for some. I mean, they weren't heels in Smoky Mountain, so that they was only a heel on WCW at first, I believe.
Yeah, because he does about his first. He does about his first maybe about a year to year. Nah, not even a year. Yeah, probably a year to year and a half in WCW as a face, and then I think he kind of starts going heel. Doesn't he start going heel with the run with Malenko, Aaron? Isn't that when he?
Oh, it's way before. It's way before that. Well, I shouldn't say way before that. It's about mid '97. They gave him like a losing streak, and he got mad and like beat up Penzer a couple times, and then he apologized, and it was like mid '97.
And this was Jericho?
Yeah.
Can't think of who they had him lose against, like for that to work. I guess
now,
he did good.
I was gonna say, I guess now that Aaron mentions it, I kind of vaguely remember that because he lost like Mysterio. Then it gets to the point where he's losing to like Prince Iakea and shit, and he just kind of.
Oh yeah, the Iakea loss was like set him over.
that was the Iakea that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, the Iakea one made him lose his mind.
Oh my God, he had to do it. He had to put over Iakea.
One of my favorite things.
He started calling him. He used to call him Prince Nakamaki.
Yeah, Prince Nakamaki, and like one day he was like supposed to fight him for his cruiserweight belt, and he was like, "Look at you! There's no way you're a cruiserweight. Look at your love handles. You like." He's like, "You big fat bastard." Is basically what he called. You big fat Polynesian.
Oh, Polynesian. He got all brand specific.
Chris Jericho's like the Adam Sandler of wrestling. I have this theory. Here's my theory, Chad. I don't think I've ever told you this. I loved Adam Sandler. All right. I thought Adam Sandler movies were great. I thought he was really funny. And then right about the time that movie Click was out, I'm pretty sure the real Adam Sandler was abducted by aliens and replaced by a shitty Adam Sandler. Because ever since then, he's been a completely different Adam Sandler that isn't funny and makes shitty movies. And I think at some point in like maybe 2018, Chris Jericho was actually replaced by an alien, because the Chris Jericho of today is not the Chris Jericho. Like, the dude's a fucking wacko. He's not near as good as he used to. I don't know. And I'm not trying to hate, but I'm just saying, like, it's just what I remember of him back in the day to now. It's like a completely different dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's kind of hard to explain. We really don't have the time to get onto it like that, but he's got so much going on in his real life. Like his person. I guess he turned his character into what he became as a person. He wasn't as goofy. As slapstick anymore, and like he was. It was almost like wrestling was like a burden to him. Like all this other shit going on and stuff. Yeah, he was. I like that Chris Jericho. To me, he can do anything. He's great at it all. But him getting to be himself as a heel is it's hilarious to me. I mean, I don't know about the Adam Sandler thing because I don't know anything about Adam Sandler at all. But he knew Chris Jericho knew what funny was, especially when he had to be funny.
Yeah,
he's always good at what he
and I will put his 2008. And I know that's we're kind of like 80s 90s guys, but I will actually put his 2008 through 2010 WWF heel run or WWE heel run up against any top heel run in the history. He was
you're talking about Suit Jericho, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about Suit Jericho. I'm talking about I knocked Shawn Michaels' wife out, Jericho.
I was gonna say I've liked everything about his career up until and I don't want to hate on AEW, but whatever, everything up to what he's doing now. But the best Jerichos I've ever seen were kind of like we were talking about, where he snapped and started feuding with, when he took the mask off of Uvi and he took Ray's knee out and he was making fun of Dean Malenko and he called Dean Malenko's dad Boris Malenko. That was fun. And then I liked Suit Jericho, and where he talked quiet so people would have to listen.
Yeah, they'd have to shut up and listen to what he said.
Yeah, he took elements of all the best heels in the business and rolled them into one. It was like this might sound stupid, but it was like heel Jake Roberts and Nick Bockwinkel had a baby, and it was 2008 Chris Jericho.
One of the greatest
separate nights.
My favorite heel wins a title moments ever is when he has a title match. He has that title match with Shawn Michaels, and it's a ladder match. And I think it's a title. Anyway, yeah, it's a world title. It's a ladder match, and the only reason he wins is because the title swings into his face, and then he swings back, and Shawn falls off the ladder, and then Jericho accidentally grabs the belt. And the reaction is great because, first of all, he accidentally became the champion. And then he gives this smile like he's half fucking out of it and his tooth's missing. And he's holding the belt up. And it's fucking classic, man. It's great.
And you know what makes it even better? The week before, and I don't know if he did it because he was smart enough to do it, or if it just kind of worked out that way. But the week before on Raw, he was like in his suit and he had his hair all nice and everything, and he climbed up to the ladder and he said, "The last thing you're gonna see on this pay-per-view this Sunday is me like this." And he's like happy and he's got everything going.
Oh,
And
I'm
he's
sure he did that shit on
propped.
purpose.
And then like the end of the pay-per-view is him in the same position, but his hair is disheveled, he's bloody, he's missing a fucking tooth. It's good shit, pal.
Jericho. Yeah, I mean Jericho's going to go down. It's amazing how if you would have asked me, I don't know, 20 years ago, to list like my top 5 greatest, of all time. And it's amazing how many people are, or just say top 10, because top 5 is pretty much going to stay the same.
Mhm.
But just say top 10. How many guys have slid out, and guys like Jericho may have slid in? Because I'm always going to put the Ric Flair, Terry Funk, Bockwinkel's races, all them guys as my greatest of all time. But all of a sudden, when you start seeing names like Jericho, he's starting to really earn his spot as one of the greatest of all time. And they're starting to call him that. At least Jim Ross is calling him, And it's like, he's getting that. And it's funny because you just don't think Chris Jericho is, one of the greatest of all time. It's just funny how it works out that way, but I totally agree that he is.
The match itself between Jericho and Taz, my notes are, it's a good back and forth match. Jericho shows, why he's going to be a future Hall of Famer.
Jericho got a lot in that match.
Yes, he did. And the match is really good. And Jim Molyneux actually stops the match, or tries to stop the match, after Taz gives Jericho a pretty nasty suplex on his head. But Jericho, being the babyface, protests. They restart the match. Taz gives him another suplex and Taz mission for the win. But it was all very effective, and this was a really good matchup. I actually didn't expect it. To be honest with you, I didn't think they'd mesh when I first saw that this match was going to happen.
Well, I mean, I totally love that false finish spot stopping the match. It also gave you a fucking an opportunity to see where Jericho's at as far as with the crowd. If Taz was over,
Yeah.
but for Jericho to want the match to restart, if the crowd would have cheered, then they want to see Jericho, or they could have booed, he could have been chicken shit, but no, he was a tough guy. He wanted 5 more minutes, or whatever he did.
Aaron, your thoughts on the match itself before we get to the aftermatch, the afterbirth?
I thought it was a decent match, and really the only note I got out of it is that spot where Taz went to Tazplex Jericho off the second rope, and Jericho rolled out of it and landed on his feet. I was like, that's fucking impressive. I know it wasn't like a huge spot or anything, but I thought it looked fucking cool. It's like the main spot in the whole match for me was that. I was like, that was really a good looking spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jericho's a lot like me when he hit them high spots like that. You have a great opportunity, you have a great percentage of a chance of pulling it off, but your percentage of blowing that spot is nowhere near as fucking low as the Rey Mysterio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know I can do all that shit, but it's like Chris Jericho. He can do it too, but he can't do it like Rey Mysterio or him guys. He does it like a white guy like me. There's a good chance you can blow this.
Well, after the matchup, Taz won't let go of the Kata Hajime, so the bunch of guys come out from the locker room to try to get him to break the hold. Brian Pillman comes. What's that?
First, it was Nunzio by himself.
Oh yeah, first it was Damian Stone / Nunzio / Little Guido, / probably works at Dunkin' Donuts now. He was the first one out. And then Brian Pillman comes out. And they essentially, are trying to say that he's coming out because they both came out of the dungeon and blah, blah, blah. But Pillman does the heel bullshit and leaves. Shane Douglas comes out, kind of chases Pillman back. I actually did like, this was a good use of that football player guy who we still don't know who he is. But Pillman's escape, Pillman's fucking escape from the arena was some awesome fucking like slapstick comedy shit. He jumps over the rail into the arms of this large football player, and then the large football player carries him out of the arena. And I thought that was fucking great, man.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy was, man. His name was like Cartwright or Boatwright but like I didn't know he was part of the act.
I fucking love that shit. I was like, that is fucking awesome.
What about what he did to the Puerto Rican, though?
Man.
Pillman just dropped the Puerto Rican on his fucking head. Because, like when he suplexed that kid, he just dropped him on his fucking head. Like half his head hit the side, like fucking guardrail, and the other side of his head hit the fucking floor. And I was like, God damn, he didn't protect that little fucking Puerto Rican at all.
Yeah, just think,
Pillman,
it could have been me. Yeah, no, I don't think so, Brian.
And then the only other note I have is, why the fuck is Judge Dredd here? Like, they sent Judge Dredd out. Why?
No, that wasn't Judge Dredd.
He's the guy that looks like 911 but isn't.
Isn't that one of the cops or the security guards?
What was
I
that?
don't remember the wrestler guy to look like that.
It's just his name was Dredd in ECW, but he was Judge Dredd, and he had like suspenders that went through, like they went over like this, but he had to wear a fucking t-shirt because he was a fat fuck. He looked like a bigger version of the Bad Attitude Guys or whatever.
No, wasn't that Damian King?
No, it's not Damian King. It's a big fat fuck named Judge Dredd, and he's out there.
For him being in that match, I know the Sabu Judge Dredd guy, but he was only there, I believe, like once or twice. Real big dude, tall.
He was a big fat guy.
He's like 6'9".
Well, the next thing we get here is Joey. Joey's back, and he's talking to us about all the stuff going on with the agreements or the arrangements between Tommy Dreamer, Shane Douglas, and Sandman, because they don't like each other, but they have a common enemy in Raven and his crew. Raven comes out on crutches, and this is a great heel episode of ECW.
He's got gout.
Yes, not only does Brian Pillman make the greatest escape ever into the arms of his big buddy, and his big buddy carries him out of the arena. But now Raven, for the first time in wrestling history, is using the gout as a reason to try not to wrestle.
Dude, I probably laughed about it then, but I'm going through it right now. I know what they're talking about that it feels like, but that motherfucker wouldn't be walking like that, dude. It's just a hell of a fucking injury to use. It's hilarious to me. I've never had it before, so I never thought much about it. And now that I'm going through, it's like, yeah, this fucking shit hurts. But that was the excuse. He had the gout for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
It takes a little longer than that, bud.
And before we get into the match between the match here is Shane Douglas and Raven for the ECW Championship. Before we get into the match, Lance Wright tells us who our ECW Fan of the Week is, and he says the Fan of the Week is the people in charge at WCW for continually copying ECW. So.
Not typical Mr. Wright segment.
And this is the reaction, rightfully so, to the god-awful thing that is WCW Uncensored 1996.
So it's sick because Lance Wright says WCW's pay-per-views have become uncensored. They actually should be censored.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. You had to catch it, but yeah, I got you.
Yeah, this is the year where they had Uncensored had the Tower of Doom cage match or whatever that had Zeus in it and fucking Jeep Swenson, and it was like Hogan and Savage versus all these guys and Flair and Anderson, and they had to climb to the top or get to the bottom or fuck. It was terrible. It's awful.
The basement in the ring.
Yeah. They're like, you got your final boss is Jeep Swenson. Good luck.
Who they originally named the Final Solution.
Yeah. Oof.
That was his name coming in after they finally named him. That big ass fucking jabroni piece of garbage. He actually stuck around for a minute.
They had him and Zeus. They had him and Zeus come in. Zeus was called Z Gangsta. Yeah. And they came in. Yeah, they came in like 3 weeks before the pay-per-view. They did the pay-per-view and then they were fucking gone.
Keep fucking Swinson. I remember the name from Texas, but I don't remember seeing a whole lot of it. I'm gonna have to fucking go into a YouTube fucking deep dive tonight if there is anything on this motherfucker.
There actually the 88 world class stuff on Peacock for the world class. They actually have like the Jeep Swenson when Gary Hart brings them in and stuff. It's actually on Peacock, so you can watch that abysmal crap.
You can also watch Batman and Robin because he plays Bane.
I'm not watching Batman and Robin. I'm more of a Buttman and Robin kind of guy when it comes to that kind of movie.
I was not, and I mean, and I'm a fan of Raven. I've established it on this show. I'm a huge Raven fan. This Raven Douglas match, I really wasn't a fan of the match. I don't know if it was just the way they structured it or what, but they kind of lost me a couple of times.
He had gout, man.
Well, and that is one of my notes is Raven wins after a DDT on the chair. And the best part of the match is Joey Styles, because Joey Styles says Raven retains the ECW championship despite the gout.
Yeah. He did it great.
But wasn't it more about the aftermath than it was the actual match?
Yeah, I guess you're right. This is a match to get to an angle.
Yeah, and he did it.
I mean, good. It was good what you saw, but yeah, it wasn't what, 5 minutes? Not even, was it barely 5 minutes? I don't know how long it was.
And I like the fact that Levy kept his boot unlaced. Like, he sold the gout. Like, good for him, man. I appreciated it.
The gout.
Like, you know, like sometimes guys will be working angles or matches where they got like an injury angle and they'll forget, like, you know, their right hand's damaged or whatever. Yeah. And they accidentally like use it in the match and don't
sell Aaron,
their right hand.
Aaron, you won. You won for this week. Because I had originally given myself the title of the show for this week. I had written down Pillman's Fantastic Escape. But you win. He sold the gout is going to be the title of this week's episode.
Yeah, he sold the gout, man.
Never before in wrestling history. You just think it didn't happen in Memphis first, so I'm sure Jerry Jarrett's all pissed. What do you mean you're selling the gout up there in Philadelphia? Calling Lawler. Why do you think about this gout bullshit? What you doing shaving Bill Dundee's wife's head when you could be having the gout?
We pitched it to Jackie Fargo once, but he just fucking spit tobacco on us and walked away.
Yeah, he didn't know anything about it.
He probably had the gout, for God's sake. He's like, I'm just walking here, motherfucker.
Kind of like in his elbows and shit. And he didn't know there wasn't even a word for it then. It was just that you're all fucked up. That's what they called it.
Jackie Fargo had way more than the gout.
Yeah, well, I mean, what is way more? Where is that? Is that like the 500 mark, whatever? The gout is.
It's like, I know he had shit dripping. I guarantee it.
He was spewing gout.
Seeping.
What if the great mood?
He was seeping. Yeah.
I can see that now. Like Great Mood or Tajiri spraying the gout mist on somebody, and all of a sudden they start selling their feet. Or if they spray it right on their feet. Ah! The gout!
All right, Aaron, take us through the next few minutes here of the show.
Well, the only other thing I got is, like I said, Raven wins, and then the only other note I have really is that I think the belly-to-belly suplex is no matter what wrestler uses it, as a finisher, it's the dumbest finisher any wrestler can use. Like, it's just, I don't get it. I just never have.
It's an overdone hip toss. Like, why is the guy delivering it, taking it as well? I mean, I don't know what your point is there about it, but that's what I always took about it.
Everybody's walking away.
No, I'm still here.
Okay,
I just had to go.
Everybody.
I just had to go mobile for a minute. That's why I was having you gonna kind of do the rundown of the aftermatch here.
Yeah, you shouldn't let me do that. But the aftermath, the afterbirth of the match is the Bruise Brothers come out to help Raven, but Tommy comes out to attack them, and they end up beating up Sandman, and then Tommy comes out to help Shane from the Bruise Brothers, but then the Sandman ends up coming out to help Tommy Dreamer, and it ends in a big schmoz with the Bruise Brothers and Raven and Fat Ass Meanie and Stevie running away, and it turns into
Big brawl.
Shane, Sandman, and Tommy kind of having a stare down, and Shane is kind of mocking the Sandman every time he turns around, but Shane's just telling him to remember about the deal they have. It's a big, convoluted, fucking rigmarole. That's all I can say.
I thought we were having after dinner tomorrow. I didn't know that Shane had a rigmarole. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot going on. And I saw Shane do something that I never seen Shane do before, doing all that shit. He did like a fucking that Chris Jericho spot where he jumps off the fucking inside rope over the top rope. Who the fuck told Shane that was a good idea? Fuck. That was it because Jericho's wasn't even great. And Shane's was worse than that. He barely got over that. I don't even like doing it, honestly. I get it, and I can do it, but it's one of them moves where I have to be I have to feel really good about it. That move can go fucking bad so fast. It could happen to Jericho too, but Shane trying, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And I want to know how much the Blue Denim Bruise Brothers cost for security. Because I'd love to be in a place somewhere and I get into an argument with some old man at a bar and he starts talking shit. He's got some buddies there, and all of a sudden here comes Ron and Don through the door. I mean, just to have him sit down in the car while I go into the bar and cause trouble.
One thing.
Local joint. Get the fuck out of here. I don't care if you lose 90% of the matches or whatever the fuck they do, but them just walking into a bar looking like that, enough to shut my mouth.
One thing I did like was when they had the chair around Raven's gout foot, and Tommy and Sandman were arguing about which one of them was gonna hit it, and Shane just climbed up to the top and jumped on it. I thought that was funny because I'm like, oh, it's a heel fucking up a heel. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was funny.
And Too Cold comes out to end the show because we've almost forgotten about, the way the TV's been produced lately. And it's cool the way it's been produced because we've almost forgotten about the fact that Sandman and Too Cold are a team. And it kind of makes you feel like Sandman's forgotten that he and Too Cold are a team. So I like the hint of the animosity there. And I am a fan of the Uneasy Alliance storyline with Dreamer, Douglas, and Sandman. Like, we don't like each other, but we really don't like these guys. And I appreciate that.
I'm not saying I didn't like it, but I thought they milked the whole Sandman laughing behind, or Shane laughing behind Sandman's back too many times. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe twice was fine, but they did it like 5. They did the same thing like 5 times. Like,
maybe it's one of those things for the live crowd, but on TV you only show it twice instead of all 5.
Yeah, I
you know.
Yeah. I did catch it, but I didn't catch it like Aaron did. Good looking out. No, I didn't notice that. I mean, I would expect the alliance wasn't going to go great anyway, but I didn't really see that. I mean, or pay much attention to that first either.
But yeah, like I said at the beginning of the show, I really actually enjoyed this episode of ECW. I actually gave this episode an A.
Oh, come on.
A low A, but an A.
Yeah, it was a. I mean, you could even use the word fabulous episode. It covered a lot of ground. I mean, it showed a lot of class with the goodbye for Cactus. That was very classy and respectful. I mean, it definitely kept you up to date with what was going on with enough clips and highlights and all that shit. I mean, yeah, it was one of those shows where you almost look back and you go, "You fit all that shit in an hour." And it wasn't like you didn't have time to digest it.
Right.
You can still watch it, know what was going on, but bam, they're going right to the next thing. And yeah, you got all that shit in an hour, and which was impressive. Yeah, maybe for me, I give it like a solid B+.
Aaron,
we're getting there.
I'm right around with Chad. It's just a high B. I thought it was a great show.
All right. Well, yeah, I said we're going to do a short episode this week, and we did an hour anyway. But do you guys have any parting words for our listeners before we sign off and I fucking go to bed?
Just follow me, Chad Austin, on all the media outlets. I'm still looking for followers. I'm still dealing with the gout.
Aaron?
My only comment would be is that gout is a serious situation, and if you think you have it, don't ignore it. Get to your doctor. Get checked out.
And
gout it all out. Don't.
Gout it out loud.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, just as a public service announcement for our friend Tony Atlas. Tony, watch out for the gout.
Boy, you got your gout.
Oh, he can fit a gout foot in his mouth.
Oh, sorry. Today it's called Pro Wrestling Gout.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week.